What's up, everybody? Rabid Hedgehog here once again, and this is going to be part 2 of how to ride a motorcycle. Now, if you notice, we have changed venues here, and you'll see controls are still very similar. Engine cutoff switch, start, horn, turn signal, but this is the modern one where you press the cancel, and of course your headlight selection. So this one's a little bit more modern. Of course, Val is 41 years old. This bike is only a year old. So at any rate, what we got to last time was talking about a little bit about the friction zone and how to get the motorcycle to start pulling you between your heel and your toes. Well, this time we're going to start talking about posture. We're going to start talking about how to get this thing going and how to smooth things out between the two of them. So if you remember, we see our motorcycle, which is fuel, which this bike does not have a fuel valve, but it does have another trick on it, and that's why I'll go into that on this video, is that it's fuel injected. So when a fuel injected bike is turned on, you'll turn it on, and if you could hear that, I hope you could, that is the fuel pump. You want to make sure that the fuel pump is disengaged before you actually start the motorcycle. If your bike is equipped with a fuel injection system, sometimes they have a red light that indicates if it's priming or not. And if it's priming and you start it, it could hurt it, but just remember, wait for the pump to end, wait for the red light to go off. All right, the next thing we're going to talk about is how your hands should be during this time. Since the clutch takes power and adds power back to the back wheel, this is where you want to hover. That brake over there, you want to leave that alone for now. You want to make sure your wrists are nice and flat, as you can see. So if your wrist is not flat, say it's more down, it makes it harder to reach and give enough pressure for the front brake in case of emergency. If your wrist is too far forward, then what happens is that you may grab it, and if you're panicking and you forget to grab the clutch, sometimes when you try to grab that full power, notice how that makes that move if your wrist is too high. So you don't want to do that. I know those are worst case scenarios, but I've seen a lot of beginners do that and they rev their bike out. So you want to make sure your wrist is flat. That way you can just nice, firm, progressive squeeze on your front brake whenever you need it. And that way you notice it goes like that. Now you roll on and you roll off your throttle. If you notice, I try not to use much wrist. I actually use more of a pinching motion whenever I'm riding. That way it keeps my wrists in more of a flat position. Some will notice that I'll sometimes rip it like that, but that's if I'm going a little bit quicker. But in normal riding circumstances, just a nice little pinch to open the throttle about 1/8 of a way to maybe a half, and that's all you really need in the real world. So now we got some of that posture completed. We're going to go ahead and start up. Now remember, the bike is in neutral. You know that it's in neutral because I started it. The bike didn't move, but remember, push your motorcycle back and forth just to make sure that you are in true neutral. Once again, if the light's indicating and it's not really neutral and you start it, it may hop off on you and it will hurt a little bit if you crash. All right, so we're going to go ahead and go into first gear here. Now notice both of my feet are down on the ground right now. Clutch is fully in, no hand on the brake, and we're going to go to what's called a power walk. So what that means is we're going to use the clutch from the 1 to about 3 or so position, or whatever the friction zone is, and this bike's about 2 actually. So whenever you start to hit that friction zone, you're going to actually basically walk this motorcycle, and you're going to practice keeping your head and eyes looking downrange. So we're going to go ahead and start moving here. You'll see me releasing. Notice I'm not going to use the throttle at all right now. If it gets too fast, I'm going to actually feather the clutch a little bit. That way I can start learning when my friction zone is, when my clutch is going to engage, and when my engine's going to start taking off. Notice I'm actually walking the motorcycle. Notice I'm not getting at a pace that's going to be too fast for me. All right. So when we reach a destination, go ahead and stop, put it in neutral. And what we're going to do is we're going to practice our head turns and our turnarounds. So we're going to look to the right and turn our handlebars to the right. We're going to start walking that direction. And we're going to turn back around. Notice I'm still hovering over that clutch in case of an incident, but I'm looking where I'm going. So that way I can do a nice safe turnaround and see everything that's with me. Notice how deep I turn my head. So when I start that right-hand turn, I'm looking well over my shoulder. Left-hand turn, well over my shoulder again. You want to make sure you do that. That way you practice both directions. We'll go ahead and we'll walk it again. Like I said, notice I'm going to be feathering the clutch. Just nice feathering. If it gets too fast, notice I'm still not using the brake. Just release and pull in the clutch, and that way you don't have that much power. And this is a lot of power for a motorcycle. It's 100 horsepower. It's a little fun to do this with. All right. Use a little bit of front brake to stop since we're on a downhill on this one. I put it back in neutral. Like I said, just practice both turns, even if you have a big island right there. Look right, look left. Get those turns going. Learn how to do those handlebar turns. I'm going to go ahead and walk back over here since I got a little bit of a straightaway here. Right now we don't want to turn in power, so I'll go ahead and put it back in neutral. And we're going to walk this thing up here. All right. Notice I'm still in neutral because I didn't want to power in the turn just yet. Now, when we've done that enough, when we've actually walked the motorcycle and we're very familiar with where our friction zone is and how everything's working, we're going to go ahead, go first gear, and then we're going to actually put our feet up on the pegs to start riding. But you don't want to actually use throttle if you don't have to. So if your motorcycle is a little bit less CC than this one, a little less power, you definitely want to have a little bit of throttle for this. Because if it starts to bog, that's hurting the engine. If it's going to do just fine, don't worry about it. So what we'll do is we're going to power walk the first few steps. Notice my feet here. So power walk. Keep your head and eyes up when you reach. Notice I'm up on there, clutch fully out, little bit in if it starts to bog a little bit there, and same thing, we're going to stop right here. Notice I'm going to use both brakes. Notice that my left foot lands before my right foot. You want to make sure you get in a good habit of both brakes, and you want to make sure you drop your left foot before your right foot, and that way you have maximum braking all the way to your stop. If you see people coming to a stop and then they're putting their right foot down and then using their front brake, that's not giving them maximum stopping power. That's just giving them a little bit more room to run into the car in front of them and not have a very good balance point, because now they're hopping their foot and they could hurt it and it could cause a problem. Firm progressive squeeze on the front, nice firm pressure on the back. When you come to a stop, left foot land, then right foot. All right, so we're going to put her in neutral, and we're going to do that turnaround again. Like I said, this is practicing getting your head turned and keeping your head and eyes up. Because on a motorcycle, you don't want to look down all the time on your control surfaces. You want to be able to do this all by feel. With your eyes, you're going to make it all wobbly and stuff. If you're looking down, when you take off, your balance isn't going to be right, and you're not going to be able to see what you're doing. And then sometimes you get that target fixation too, where you're looking at a crack in the road, and now you're going to run into it because you're using something on the ground instead of the horizon. Trust me, you could see everything coming at you as it's coming at you. As you can see from this GoPro even, you could see it the whole time. This GoPro has a pretty good point of view of what we actually see. So you could see the potholes, you can see the hazards on the horizon. You simply can just adjust as you're going. So you want to practice all of this. We'll do the couple of power steps again. And we're going to pull that up. Notice the bike takes off, feet are on there, I'm not looking down at all. All right, notice that nice firm progressive squeeze again. All right, so this time I'm just going to go ahead and do the left turn because we've already gone through the right turn and why we do it. Go ahead and walk it over here. Nice exercise for you and me. All right. So now that you've actually learned how to put your feet up, how to stay balanced a little bit, so now we're going to practice stopping. So basically, we're going to start and stop, and that way you can learn and train your mind. Foot on the brake and front brake, and then land with left foot first. So remember, it's okay to power walk a few steps while we're doing this. You're brand new. You still don't have balancing down. Don't try to just lift your feet up and then now you're falling. You want to just get a nice couple of power steps in. And now we'll brake. Notice how we land. Put both feet back on the ground. Couple of power steps again. Feet up. I'll show you that right now. And we'll stop. And we'll keep going for a little bit on this one. Notice I'm not looking down at where I'm going to stop at. Notice I'm actually keeping my eyes on the horizon for the stops. You want to make sure you do that while you're doing this. And like I said, take a couple of power steps. Notice how stable I am. Don't be embarrassed about power steps. You're brand new to motorcycling. You haven't been doing this for very long. All right. And there you have it. So now we've made it fully powered all the way up here. Now at this point, it's okay to do a little bit of power walking, so we're going to actually go ahead and turn around using that power walk, using the clutch instead of in neutral. Because now you're going to start learning how to put this all together to get your turns under power and everything too. But we're going to do a couple more start-stop drills here. All right, like I said, couple power walk steps. Notice that flat wrist. Notice I'm not really using the throttle at this time. Some bikes will take off on their own very well. Indian Scouts is one of those. Notice how stable I am. Like I said, use power steps. It helps take the wobbliness out and a little bit of the fear. Notice another thing too, while I'm doing the braking. Notice that all 4 fingers are on the brake lever. And the reason for that, say that this has a failure and the hydraulics give out and suddenly that lever comes through and you're one of those 2-finger breakers that I see all the time. You'll pull that and it'll come out and snap your freaking fingers and it's going to hurt and you're going to take your hands off and you're going to have a problem. All 4 fingers over that lever. Keep on going. All right. Notice these nice, easy, smooth stops too. Now remember, if you apply the brake too hard in the front and it locks it up, you want to release it as fast as possible and then reapply pressure nice, firm, and progressively. And that's because a front lockout is more than likely going to raise up a problem with an accident than your rear locking out. If your rear locks out, usually we recommend to ride the slide in the rear than to just hold or unlock the brake, because if you do, if the back end is already coming around on you and you haven't felt it yet, you're going to feel it, because now you released that wheel, gave it more power, and now it will flip you in a high side. But if you're still in line, you can release that rear brake and reapply pressure if you're more skilled. But if you're new, just ride that slide out until you get used to the way the bike is feeling. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go under power and we're going to get to a pre-shifting speed. That means we're not going to actually shift yet, but we're going to actually ride under some throttle, and that way the bike can feel, you can feel when it needs to shift basically, so pre-shift speed. So once again, we're going to do a little bit of power walk. This time I'm going to add a little bit of throttle, about an 1/8. If you can hear that engine. Now we're going to roll off the throttle, we're going to pull in on the clutch, and we're going to brake nice and smooth. Notice I'm keeping my head up, but I'm stopping at the end of the line where I want to. because you can see everything. Don't try to look down. All right, let's go ahead and do that turnaround real quick. Also note when I'm stopping too, that the handlebars are square. There's a good reason for that. So, let me kind of demonstrate that real quick. So whenever you release and your handlebars are nice and square, notice that nice smooth stop. But if you go and your handlebars are not square, notice how much weight suddenly transferred. Look at my leg catch. See how my leg popped off? That's because you're transferring too much weight suddenly with the brakes and everything, and that's a no-go. You want to make sure nice squared up wheels whenever you do it. Once again, this is more over-exaggerated of what's happening, but this is what can happen. All right, pre-shift speed again. Notice I'm still hovering over that clutch in case I got an issue. All right, nice, firm, progressive squeeze. All right. Go ahead and make another turnaround here. Notice I'm feathering that clutch still during these power walk steps. All right. So now that we've gotten to that point, we've done some starting and stopping, and that's how you learn to make sure your feet are on the right controls the whole time. And the left foot drops first, and the right foot stays on the brake, and the front is a nice firm progressive squeeze. Now we're able to add a little bit more to it. So we're going to actually shift. So the shifting process on a motorcycle is going to come in different steps. So basically what we're doing, I'll kind of simulate this here. So you have the throttle open, like so, and then you'll roll off the throttle, pull in the clutch, you're going to pull up to go to second gear, and then you're going to very slowly release the clutch back out and re-add the throttle as well, and it will help you roll. Now I know I need to be in first gear for that, but I was just kind of showing you once again. Up for second gear. Notice I'm in neutral, down for first. So what I'll do is I'll kind of watch it this time. I know I'm not supposed to look, but that's why I have this nice open area here. But we're going to go through the process. So we're going to roll on the throttle, release the clutch, a couple of power walk steps, get to that pre-shift speed. We're going to roll off throttle, pull in clutch, up, and roll on and release at the same time. Now to brake, we're going to pull in the clutch, apply both brakes, and press down on the shifter to return to first gear. Notice I'm not neutral, and notice it's not bogging when I'm doing my turnaround here. Means I made it back to first gear. All right, we're going to do that again. Roll on the throttle a little bit, release the clutch, couple of power walk steps, get up to that shifting speed, roll off, unclutch, and up, roll on and release. Nice smooth shift. Now we're going to brake, pull in clutch, both brakes, push down, nice smooth stop. All right, we're going to make that turn. Eventually we're going to get to that turning. It's a little bit different because this is not a true course. Like I said, do not take this as a course. This is just for beginning. All right, back up to speed. Roll off, clutch, up, and release. To brake, both brakes, clutch in, put your foot down. Not even looking. That's what you got to practice, not even looking. So on motorcycles, you may have heard that steering them is different than a car, and that is correct. At slower speeds, you're going to be doing more handlebar turns. At higher speeds, you're going to be doing what's called counter steering. Right now, we're going to be doing some handlebar turns. So that means you're going to keep your wrist flat, and you're going to turn your head when you're making these turns. And you're going to do some slight what's called counterweighting. So because you're going slower, you need to actually counterweight the motorcycle a little bit. That means if you're turning left, you're looking to the left, but you're also sticking your body up to the right side of the motorcycle. And you'll see how kind of off-centered I am. And that's because I'm counterweighting the bike to aid it to be more stable in a slower turn. So whenever you're doing these handlebar turns, just make sure it's nice and smooth. Notice I can still continue to hold my wrist flat. Notice if you have your wrist flat too, the throttle's not going anywhere. If you have your wrist in the wrong position, notice I've revved it, because whenever you're moving, it causes the wrist to contort. Flat wrist means you're going to keep your throttle under control the whole time. So you want to practice moving it around, flat wrist, no revving. Make sure you're covering that clutch right now still, but you're doing it all smoothly. All right, so we're going to go ahead, first gear, and we're going to go ahead, start moving again. We're going to roll off throttle, pull in clutch, pull up, go to second gear. Nice and smooth transition. Now this is going to be a little bit different than what you'll ever see in a course, but we're going to go ahead and make this turn. We're going to keep it in second gear. Notice, nice smooth arc, constant speed. It's really easy to turn a motorcycle even at slow speeds. If you feel your bike is bogging, then it's possible you need a different gear. You might need a lower gear, but right now, the bike is not bogging. We're just making this turn in second gear. I'll go ahead and cross over here. That way we can go to the right as well. Notice I'm not pulling in on anything right now. If I have appropriate speed, I'll just go ahead and make the turn. If you feel like you're going too fast, pull in on the clutch. Slow down a little bit, drop a gear a little bit. Make sure your braking is done before any of the curves, because you don't want to add braking and turning, because that's taking away that limited contact patch that the motorcycle has of its traction. All right. Notice how much I'm turning my head. I'm looking where I want to go and down a little bit even. Looking over that shoulder nice and deep. I'm going to go ahead and do another crossover so I can go back the other direction. All right. Left hand turn. Notice how super simple that is. And like I said, notice I'm not using any brakes whatsoever. Everything's just nice and up, sticking in second gear. Like I said, some bikes you may be in first for this. But that's how you complete nice handlebar turns, is you just make sure that you're going at a nice comfortable clip. Notice I'm doing 15 miles an hour. Second gear, that's about as minimum as you can get for second gear. And it was nice and smooth. All right. So we've gotten a little bit more of how to do some of these turns. Another thing you want to make sure you know how to do is to pause and go. And that's the event, and we're going to use these 2 points here, that say you're running through traffic. So say that you're in stop and go traffic and you need to use the motorcycle, you need to learn how to do what's called pause and goes, which means that as you're going through, say you're coming up, somebody stops, you hit both brakes, but you don't put your feet down and you keep going. Now I looked down, noticed I had to pull my handlebars over to get some balance because I was trying to show you my feeding position. So you pause, you look, and you continue. So this will help you kind of learn how to handle those traffic situations when it's a little bit tighter, because you're not going to always be able to go. Sometimes you're going to have to stop for a moment, but not put your feet down. Keep it balanced, keep your head and eyes up. Keep your head and eyes up and continue going. So you want to learn how to teach yourself to do that as well. And another thing you want to do too is learn your clutch control too. So in those events that you're dragging and you can't pause and go, what we'll do is we're going to go through here, and you notice I'm going to use the clutch and I'm going to crawl this bike. There will be some balance shifts here because this is uneven pavement too. Notice how slow I'm able to get through this, but both feet are still up on the pegs. Continue going there. Go ahead and turn around. So you want to learn how to do this so when you're in traffic, you can control your motorcycle at the extreme slows. I'll come up here. We're going to crawl this motorcycle here. Notice I'm using a combination of the throttle, friction zone as well, and a little bit of the back brake actually, because trail braking actually helps you keep more stable. All right. So that is your clutch control, so that way you learn how to get yourself through that stop and go traffic when you're in a city or a suburb area or kind of out here where there's stop signs and there might be a line. So that's kind of some important things to learn. Another important thing to learn as you're doing this is how to do a U-turn. Now, I know I don't have any marked places, but these lines, but basically a U-turn helps teach you how to do stuff. So let me set this up here real quick. Now these lines are actually kind of, as you can see, we have angled parking and we have standard straight parking at the same time. So it's going to be a little hard to show this, but a parking space is generally a little bit less width than your standard road. So we're going to try to make it in as best we can these two spaces, but don't worry about it. These are lines. These are not actual roads, so there's nobody around. You're not going to get hurt. So if you got to go outside the lines, you're okay. And if you got to put your feet down and walk through it, it's also okay. You're still new at this. Don't get frustrated. Just make sure you're learning to keep your head and eyes up and using the controls to your advantage. So I'm going to go ahead and take off. I'm going to do a little bit of counterweighting here in a moment, so as I clear it, I'm going to counterweight. All right. As you can see, a U-turn completed. And around probably 23 feet, I'm thinking. Like I said, I don't have a deal. The thing is the box at the MSF course is 24 foot. 24 foot, the average width of a 2-lane road. So it's nothing to be scared of. And then they also have you go through the 20-footer just way that you have some room. But that's if your bike is 500 cc's or less. Anything more, 24 foot is fine. So we want to practice definitely doing that. I'm not going to do the figure of 8 here like they do. We're just going to practice to the left, because to the left, I mean, we're in the U.S. We ride only to the left. So a little bit different. I did better the first time. So we don't have to worry about going through and doing it to the right. To the right is possible, and sometimes you may have to do it. Like I said, I won't do the figure of 8 at this time. And notice I'm probably going a little bit wider, but like I said, it's okay, because these are not the full 20 feet either. See if I can get a little bit better here. And you can use your back brake once again. Notice I'm actually feathering the deal. Notice I actually did better that time. I did look through the turn, but then I looked down to show you that. Like I said, you feather that clutch so that way you get that better power, so you're not overpowering your turn, and you're using that back brake to help stabilize you. You're using that counter steer to make it happen. Some people do have some trouble going to the right as well. So I'll go ahead and we'll plan it to the right here this time. Like I said, I won't do the figure of 8 this time. A little bit wide on the first go. A little harder to plan for it when you only have these short deals and the lines aren't straight with each other like some parking spaces, but your parking lot may vary. These U-turns are great to practice though. Don't think that slow speed maneuvering is something you'll never use. It helps you become better at higher speeds too, as well. And that's the thing, it helps you do it all. Because higher speeds on a motorcycle is way more stable and easier to pull off, whereas this is way harder and takes finesse. Turned it a little too sharp in there because I'm used to doing the figure of 8s. But you can see you can get it done even with these larger 1200cc motorcycles. So that's kind of a little bit more on how to ride a motorcycle. So whenever you're going into a turn, we just want to make sure that when you're going in that you got a good speed, that you're not braking in any way through the turn, that your braking is complete before that, because your contact patch is no bigger than that on a motorcycle. And that's a lot to be putting a lot of weight and traction effort on if you're doing anything. So if you're accelerating, that's taking traction. If you're braking, that's taking traction. If you're stalling, that's taking traction. If you're turning, that's taking traction. All of that is taking traction away from that little contact patch. So you want to make sure you're as smooth as possible. That's where you get your slow, look, press, roll, and also your search, setup, smooth. And you're searching through the turn, you're evaluating everything, and you're executing your speed, your approach distance, your braking and everything, and you're getting that all down, you're smoothing things out. There's not much you can really continue to do in a parking lot, so what we'll do is we'll move out to the main road now. Hopefully you've already taken a course and you're just sharpening your skills, or you've been through the course and you're practicing right now. Like I said, please don't use this in any way to replace a course. All right. So when you're on the actual road itself, you have 3-lane positions as well. This is position 1. This is kind of your default. You want to make sure that you're riding, you're not over the yellow line, but you're in kind of this left-hand quadrant. That way people from this side can see you easier, and that way you're able to maneuver if somebody's starting to come up into your lane. Middle position is kind of rarely used, position 2. This is if there's something obstructing your primary position and or there's, a car coming over or anything like that. This could be an escape path. Also this position as well, this is position 3. Not ideal because somebody could be coming off this road and poke out too much. I'd bounce off their front end and other things. But I use that in the event that there's a semi coming straight at me and I know a high blast of wind is coming, or there's obstructions, or it's an escape route. So those are your positions on the road, but this is pretty much going to be your default, is in position 1 on the left-hand side here. Once again, may be different for other nations as well. All right, so we're going to do both brakes. I'm going to go ahead and click it down. I'm not going to do anything advanced like downshifting with throttle blips and all that just yet. All right. Hey! And that's why you keep your head and eyes up, and that's why you do those panic things, and you make sure everything is good. Notice how smooth that was. And he smells of weed to high heaven too. My goodness gracious. Wow. Anyway, so, but notice you keep looking where you want to go. If you're looking down, you may not have seen that, and you may not have been able to react good enough too. And that's kind of scary. All right, so as I was talking about search, setup, and smooth. That's going to be the primary method of turning a motorcycle. You can see the turn up ahead. You're evaluating, you're basically searching. You see that it's not that steep. So you just kind of nice, smooth entrance and exit. Notice I didn't even change throttle or anything. I'm still at the same speed. But you just search, set up, and smooth. You can change your lane position if you need to, if it's a little bit steeper, or if you see something in the middle of the turn that you don't like, or somebody pulls out from a gas station from you and causes you to do a stop. And we're going to go through that again so you can see that we have an uphill incline here, and we're going to come up on a little dill. I'm going to continue on at the same position. That car staying on his side. Notice I'm pressing the grip too. I'm pressing. I'll show you my arm movement, that press. Notice it initiates the lean to the right, even though you'd think it'd go to the left. That's your counter steer. That's where motorcycles become different, is at this higher speed, is when you start to actually counter steer a motorcycle. Parking lot maneuvers and other things are much slower and require handlebar turns. This, we're going to see that there's a dead animal in the middle of the road here, so I'm going to adjust my position. I'm going to look through my turn. Actually, it's a piece of grass, excuse me. All right, notice, nice smooth into the corner and around it. No problem there. But you notice you actually press, when you're pressing, notice how the bike moves. And then, of course, if you start using your body to weight the motorcycle as you turn, it also allows you to get deeper in there. If you notice, I am starting to use my body to go back and forth. That's why you want to make sure your legs are planted on the tank. That's why you want to make sure you have full control of your hips. Notice I'm just using my hips now, not pressing the handlebars. Just a nice sway here, and you can make a bike move too. If you put all those together, you make really good turns. You either use it to counter the bike so that way you can go through slow, or you use it to go with the bike so that way it gets through a corner better. You lean with the bike. These nice straight roads, of course, are great for practicing on. You have a lot of sight distance as well. You don't have to do anything crazy, and of course you can watch how people are coming at you. If things are going to go wrong, you have time to respond. You're looking around for ways to escape in case he would have crossed over. I can see I have a smooth grass shoulder to my right, a little bit of a ditch there, but I'm looking and watching how everybody's doing to see if I need to bail off and if I have a nice area to go where I don't get hurt, the bike doesn't get hurt, and they can cleanly pass by even though they made a mistake. You want to be able to keep evaluating escape routes. You want to keep evaluating your ride path. Notice I'm keeping my head and eyes up a long way. I can see that vehicle going over the hill now. And I'm watching what's on the road at the same time, so I can see all the little imperfections on it. I can see this intersection coming up to me as well that's on the left. In fact, I'm going to be using that, so I'm going to go ahead. Start my turn signal. Like I said, I'm not going to do anything crazy advanced just yet. Notice you do that head turn when you're making that turn. So those perimeter turns, those tight turns, that's where intersections come into play. Notice how much I'm not really using the throttle. You notice I'll use a little bit of a blip there. Like I said, I use more of a pinch whenever I'm riding, where I roll my hand, because you really don't need that much to actually operate it. The throttle usually is faster than you will know. Only on certain really small bikes does it not really respond. Now notice every time you come to an intersection, keep an eye on it. Notice there's trees on that one. What could be coming through? You might move over just a smidge to give yourself more distance to see. Notice that there's gravel right here. Wonder if there's some a little bit out, a little bit more in the road. You want to move to the left and to the right of that as well. Always keep an eye on everything that's around you. A driveway's an intersection, a road's an intersection. An entrance ramp on an interstate is an intersection. You want to make sure you're keeping an eye on the traffic around you. And that way you're evaluating your ride position. If you need to change lanes or anything like that, you're constantly aware of what might be coming. Notice a firm progressive squeeze on the front brake. Nice firm pressure on the back. We're going to come to a nice stop. Notice my head and eyes are up. And I stop before the line. You want to make sure when you're doing this that if you come up on an intersection that's blind, stop at the line first and then do what's called open up the view. And that means kind of move out. And that way you can see further down the road to remove the obstruction but not get into the intersection. So that's opening up the view right there. We're going to go ahead and make another turn. Like I said, notice I got my head looking where I want to go. And complete the turn. Make sure you cancel your signal. Another thing that you'll be doing on a motorcycle as well is you're going to be moving lanes. Of course, I'm on a double yellow here, so I can't actually change a lane. But since there's nobody around here, let me show you the procedure. So what you want to do is you want to kind of look at your mirrors, signal where you want to go, look back, and then you'll make your change and you'll cancel your signal. Same thing to the right. You want to look at your mirror, you want to signal, look back, and then change your lane and cancel signal. So that way you can see clearly, because these mirrors will always have a blind spot. You want to see clear what's behind you. Always do a good head check. As you can see, you can move your head quite nicely and see around you and see around those blind spots while you're riding. The mirror will not always have the full picture. You want to take the look around. So at any rate, this will be lesson 2 of how to ride a motorcycle. Like I said, please do not use this as a way to replace a course. This is just because I understand that we're all suffering from cabin fever. We all might be looking to get into a new thing, and motorcycling might be one of those things whenever we get out of this, and we will get out of this. So at any rate, this is the Rabid Hedgehog. You keep that shiny side up, folks. We'll catch you on the next ride.
What's up, everybody? This is the Rabid Hedgehog, and once again, thank you for watching our videos. If you like what you see, please like, subscribe, mash that notification button. That way you get the latest content as it comes out from us. We are thankful for our viewers. We're also thankful for our sponsors. We have Law Tigers, motorcycle lawyers nationwide. Right now, they are out there riding with you because they are part of our community. But if you are in trouble and in need of assistance with any accident or any motorcycle law question, give them a call. They are at 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 1-844-533-2914, or visit lawtigers.com. Also, if you're looking to protect your engine with quality synthetic lubricants, give Doug Crawford a call. He's with USA Synthetics, distributing AMS oil products. He can be found at usasynthetics.com or 405-388-6170. And if you're looking to protect yourself, protect your ride, or protect your house, whatever it might be, give Derek Enloe and Associates a call if you're in the Oklahoma area. He will be able to help you out and protect whatever you might have. Give him a call at 405-261-1010 or visit enloeinsurance.com. Once again, thank you for watching. Have a great day, and we'll catch you on that next ride.